Rick Scott, the current governor of Florida, is running to be a senator, and he's in an incredibly tight race with his competitor, Senator Bill Nelson, who's a Democrat. And so he did a campaign event recently at this Cuban restaurant known as Mojo's Real Cuban Restaurant, and thought that he was going to be welcomed by his fans, by his supporters, but instead, he was welcomed by people who want to protest him. Now, there's one specific reason why he's being protested, and it has to do with the environment. So Florida has been hit with a widespread epidemic of toxic algae, also known as red tide, that is harmful to humans and kills thousands of fish. Now, what is that? How is it caused? Well, climate change has something to do with it, and also environmental policy in the state has a lot to do with it, and that environmental policy was passed by Rick Scott. So increased nutrient levels in water from leaking septic tanks or lawn fertilizer causes red tide blooms to develop. So to be specific, Scott had signed legislation that repealed mandatory septic tank inspections in 2012. He has also cut $700 million from the state's water management districts and reduced staffing at Florida's Department of Environmental Protection. This is incredibly important for the state of Florida because climate change specifically is impacting them on a regular basis now. Flooding in South Florida, this red tide issue, it's just getting worse, and it's because of what people like Rick Scott have pushed for. Now, with that said, I want to show you some of the footage from Mojo's Real Cuban Restaurant. I enjoyed it, I hope you will too. Take a look. He was at the campaign event for 10 minutes and he had to leave.
Yeah, they're calling him Red Tide Rick. I like those kind of nicknames. And that's why his own staff was putting up the Rick Scott signs to try to shield them. It didn't seem to work.
Yeah.
So to me, the most instructive part of this story is the issue of the septic tanks. So he cuts $700 million from the water management districts, as Anna told you. And he says, I'm not gonna have the septic tanks be reviewed and inspected mandatorily. It's gonna be done voluntarily. And as we've told you 1,000 times, what happens when you leave it up to people to do things voluntarily? They don't do it.
Yeah.
And so the septic tanks started leaking, to which I say, of course they did. That's why you need regulations. So if you said to people, hey, you know what, we're just gonna make bank robbery voluntary. We're asking you not to do it anymore, but if you do, if you go into a bank and get thousands of dollars, we won't do anything about it. Guess what? You're gonna have a lot of bank robberies. Okay, so the septic tank started to leak and the water management was underfunded, so they couldn't help. And now you've got this not only affecting the health of the citizens of Florida, killing thousands of fish, but it's also hurting their economy because it's killing tourism. Obviously, tourism and going in the water in Florida is a giant, giant part of their economy.
Yeah, why would you go to Florida if you're not gonna go, like, to tour as a tourist? Like, why would you go to Florida unless you're, able to enjoy the beaches and all that?
So let's do a little bit of math behind this. So now Red Tide Rick says, oh no, I got it, I'm gonna declare an emergency. If you didn't screw it up in the first place, you wouldn't have to declare an emergency. So he declares a state of emergency and says, I'm gonna put $9 million behind this. So you took away $700 million that could have prevented the problem in the first place, and you are now spending $9 million. But why did he take away the $700 million in the first place? Because he had to do tax cuts. So if you do tax cuts for the rich and for corporations who are Rick Scott's donors, you don't have money left over to actually help the state. And the theoretical logic of the tax cuts for the rich is, don't worry, it'll help our economy. You just ruin the local economy because tourism is the #1 part of their economy. So everything they ever said was a lie. And Rick Scott committed the largest Medicare fraud in American history. He was the CEO of the company that was found guilty of that. It's not conjecture. His big defense is, well, I guess while I was running the company, someone else must have committed the largest Medicare fraud in history at my company. Come on, the guy is a lifelong criminal like other Republicans we know. So now this is the chickens coming home to roost, or the red tide rolling in, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, what? Here, I'll give you a pittance. I'll give you $9 million in emergency funding. So I hope the people of Florida understand what Rick Scott's been doing this whole time. And if you put him in the Senate, he's gonna take that robbery on behalf of his donors and he's gonna make it national. Don't let him do it. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.